It was late afternoon on December 30th, 2019, on Highway 190, the paved road that runs east of Stovepipe Wells through Death Valley. The sky was clear, the pavement was dry. Two cars moved toward each other on an open, ordinary stretch of desert road. Then one of them, a Kia, eased across the center line. No swerve, no sound of alarm. Xiaomin Deng, coming the other way in a Chevrolet Malibu, tried to move clear. There was nowhere to go. 5 people were hurt, 2 of them airlifted out, and nobody could ever say why the car had drifted. That crash is easy to file away as a single mistake. One driver, one drift, one unlucky moment. But that is exactly the trap this road sets, because the same thing keeps happening here, in the same way, to different people. Death Valley is the hottest place on Earth. It is famous for one kind of death, a hiker who runs out of water, a body found in the sun. Yet when you actually count the people who die inside this national park, the leading cause is not the heat, it is driving. Between 2010 and 2020, the National Park Service recorded 14 deaths inside Death Valley from motor vehicle crashes. Over that same decade, exposure to the environment, the heat everyone fears, killed 7. Cars killed twice as many people as the desert did. And many of those crashes happened on one road, California State Route 190, the main highway that carries almost everyone through the park. Widen the lens, and the same fact holds. Counts assembled from the park's own incident releases, the kind compiled by outside analysts, including law firms that track these numbers, put the total deaths in Death Valley from 2007 through 2023 at around 68 from every cause combined: heat, falls, medical emergencies, flash floods, all of it. And across that whole span, the single most common cause of death that investigators could pin down was the same one, not the desert, the driving. 14 deaths in 10 years does not sound like a massacre. On a crowded city freeway, it would barely register. But this is a 2-lane road through open, nearly empty desert. No real intersections, no traffic lights, no rush-hour gridlock, almost nothing to hit. On paper, it is one of the least threatening roads a person could drive. And it is the deadliest thing in a park built entirely around the idea that the danger is the land. The pattern did not stop when that decade ended. In 2023 alone, the park reported multiple deaths on Highway 190, a motorcyclist in the spring, a rollover in the summer. In 2024, 6 commercial trucks and a fifth-wheel RV caught fire on this same highway, most of them from brakes that overheated on the park's long descents. In May of 2025, a semi lost its brakes, ran off the road, and killed its driver. The park's own superintendent put it plainly: the leading cause of death in Death Valley is vehicle accidents. He called these events too common. So there are 2 pictures of the same road, a 10-year picture that says cars kill more people here than the desert does, and a recent picture that says nothing has changed. Same road, same highway, same story, told again. Which brings us to the strange part. The roads people fear, the icy mountain passes, the fog-choked interstates, the freeways packed bumper to bumper, those roads feel dangerous. You grip the wheel, you pay attention. This road does the opposite. It is wide, it is open, you can see for miles. And that feeling of ease, that sense that nothing could possibly go wrong out here, is not the absence of the danger. It is the danger. To understand why, you have to understand what this road was built to fix. Death Valley sits below sea level, a long trough of salt and gravel walled in by bare mountains. For most of human history, crossing it on wheels meant fighting the terrain the whole way: loose ground, killing heat, no water, and a mountain barrier you had to climb just to get out. In the 1930s, the state set out to connect California's Central Valley to this place. The route was designated in 1933 and first signed as Highway 190 the following year. Engineers did what engineers do. They graded the surface. They paved it. They eased the climbs and smoothed the curves until a trip that once took grinding, careful effort became something you could do at 55 miles an hour with one hand on the wheel. You can still find the older world if you look. Near a junction called Emigrant, there is a small stone building put up in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. A park ranger stationed there wrote the song "Ghost Riders in the Sky" inside its walls in 1947. For decades it stood quietly beside the highway, a piece of history. In 2025, a truck that had lost its brakes came off the grade and slammed into it, tearing away part of the structure and killing the man behind the wheel. That is the whole story of this road in one image. The engineers solved the visible problem: distance, heat, effort, time. All of it smoothed away. What they could not remove was what an easy road does to the person driving it. They built a highway that asks almost nothing of you. And a road that asks nothing is a road that lets your mind leave. Here is what it feels like from the driver's seat. You are moving at highway speed across the floor of the valley. The road ahead is straight. It has been straight for a long time. The mountains on either side barely change. There are no signs to read, no exits to watch for, no cars to track, no lights, nothing that needs a decision. The lane is wide. The pavement is smooth. Your hands rest on the wheel exactly where they should be. Your eyes are open and pointed at the road. By every outward sign you are driving, but something has already happened that you cannot feel. The human brain stays sharp by processing change. New shapes, new movements, small choices. Those are what keep the part of you that drives switched on. This road gives it almost none of that. Mile after mile of the same view, the same speed, the same straight line. And the mind does something quietly dangerous. It stops paying full attention to a task that no longer seems to need it. Researchers who study monotonous driving have names for the drowsy, detached state it produces. Drivers know it by a simpler description: the miles you don't remember. You arrive somewhere and realize you have no memory of the last stretch. You were driving the whole time. Part of you had checked out. There is a second trick built into the view. You can see so far ahead, miles of open road with nothing on it, that your brain quietly concludes nothing can surprise you. If danger were coming, you'd see it. That logic feels airtight, and it's wrong. The threat on this road almost never comes from ahead. It comes from inside the car, from the slow fade of your own attention, and that is the one thing those long sight lines cannot show you. Now put numbers on it. At 55 miles an hour, your car covers about 80 feet every second. Not 80 feet a minute, 80 feet a second. Look away for 2 seconds and you've traveled more than 150 feet blind. Let your eyes fall half closed for 3 or 4 seconds. A micro sleep, the kind fatigue produces without asking permission. And the car covers the length of a football field while no one is really driving it. The wheel is still in your hands. The engine still runs true. But the tiny, constant steering corrections that keep a car in its lane, the ones you never think about, have stopped. And you won't feel any of it as danger. That's what makes this so hard to guard against. Drowsy, drifting, half-checked out, from the inside, it doesn't feel like an emergency. It feels like driving. Your body is calm. Your hands are steady. Nothing hurts. Nothing screams. No alarm sounds. The threat gives you no signal at all. right up until the tires catch the gravel at the edge of the road or headlights swell in the wrong lane. And by then, the quiet part is over, and you have a second, maybe two, to undo something that took miles to build. Here is the cruel arithmetic of an empty road. On a crowded highway, drifting out of your lane means hitting something almost immediately, and that impact, terrifying as it is, wakes you. Out here, there is nothing to hit for a long time. So the car keeps drifting, off the line, toward the shoulder, toward the oncoming lane. It can travel hundreds of feet before anything forces you back to full awareness, and by then, you may be off the pavement or across the center line, with far too little time to fix it. Read the crash reports from this road and you see that exact sequence, over and over. A car near 20 Mule Team Canyon that veered off the road and traveled roughly 280 feet before it struck a rock wall. 280 feet, the distance of a lapse that no one felt happening. A vehicle that crossed onto the opposite shoulder hit an embankment and rolled. A car that eased across the center line into oncoming traffic on a clear afternoon. Investigators often can't tell you why. The official cause comes back unknown. But the road produces the same movement again and again. A straight, easy road, and a car that quietly leaves its lane. That is the base danger. One driver, one empty road, one drift. Everything else that makes this highway lethal gets stacked on top of it. Start with fatigue, because this road is built to hide it. Think about who drives Highway 190. Tourists making a long loop out of Las Vegas or Los Angeles, trying to see the park and get home the same day. People leaving after hours on their feet in punishing heat, watching the sun drop, telling themselves it's only another hour to a real bed. The trip almost demands tiredness. And then the road removes every reason to fight it. A twisting mountain road keeps a tired driver honest. You can't doze through a hairpin turn. This road asks for nothing. So fatigue deepens in peace. The danger isn't only falling asleep, it's the micro-sleep, those few seconds where your eyes are open but your brain briefly switches off, and you never know it happened. Remember the math. 4 seconds is a football field of road with no one steering. You can crack the window, turn up the music, sing along, and none of it matters, because stimulation is not sleep. It borrows a few minutes of alertness and charges interest. The only real fix is the rest you didn't take before you left. Then take away the light. In a city, night is never truly dark. Streetlights, headlights, storefronts, the orange glow of everything. And you can see the edges of the world. Out here, when the sun drops behind the mountains, the dark is total. There are no streetlights on this highway, no glow on the horizon. Your headlights carve a narrow cone of road, and everything beyond it disappears. Depth and distance become guesses. The monotony that was already dulling you gets worse because now there is even less to hold on to, and darkness changes the worst moment of all. On a road with two-way traffic and no median, headlights coming towards you are normal until the instant you realize they are in your lane, not theirs. On an unlit desert highway, by the time that registers, the distance left to react is almost nothing. A quiet drive and a head-on live a second apart. Now the heat gets involved, not with your body, but with your machine. Everyone comes to Death Valley braced for what heat does to a person. Fewer people think about what it does to a car. On a summer day here, the air sits at 110 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Records have topped 128 degrees Fahrenheit. The pavement runs hotter still. Push a vehicle across that at speed, hour after hour, and heat finds the weak points, a worn tire, an engine straining on a climb, brakes that never cool. And when something fails out here at speed, the crash is only the first problem. The second is where you are. A breakdown on a normal highway is an inconvenience. A breakdown here, in that heat, with no shade and no water, becomes a survival situation within hours. One overheating van climbing toward the pass caught fire and burned to nothing, while its occupants stood in 108 degrees Fahrenheit and watched it go. They lived. But the desert does not grade on effort, and the margin between a bad afternoon and a fatal one is thinner than it looks. And whatever happens, you are alone longer than you think. There is no cell service across most of this road. None. When something goes wrong, you can't call for help, and neither can anyone who finds you. After one fatal crash on Highway 190, the person who came upon the wreck had to get back in their own car and drive to a resort just to reach a phone. That is the reality here. Help is not a call away. It is a drive away, and often a long one. When a truck's brakes caught fire on the grade one night, the nearest park fire engine had to come from Furnace Creek, about 35 miles away. On a road where seconds already decide who lives, rescue is measured in tens of minutes. The empty road that feels so safe is the same empty road where, if it goes wrong, no one is coming quickly. Which brings us to the one place on this highway where the danger stops being subtle. For a passenger car, this road asks almost nothing. For a loaded truck, it can suddenly ask everything. Highway 190 climbs over Town Pass, nearly 5,000 feet up, and then drops, and drops, and drops. The descent toward the valley floor gives back more than 5,000 feet of elevation on grades that reach around 9%. For a car, that's a scenic downhill. For a heavy truck, it's a trap. Hold the brakes down a grade that long and they overheat, and once they're hot enough, they simply stop working, sometimes catching fire outright. This is not rare here. In 2024 alone, 6 commercial trucks and an RV caught fire on this highway, most from brakes cooked on the descents. The park now warns commercial trucks off the route entirely. In May of 2025, a semi hauling industrial material lost its brakes coming down, ran off the road at Emigrant Junction, and was destroyed. Its driver killed. Diesel and cargo spilled across the highway. The road shut for most of a day. The fix is old knowledge. Gear down. Let the engine hold the truck back. Stay off the brakes. But a driver who trusted an easy-looking highway can learn that far too late, at the exact moment the road stops being easy. And there's one more way this road turns on you. It lulls you for an hour with the same unchanging view, and then, without warning, it demands everything back, a sudden slowdown over a rise, an animal in the lane, a stopped car where your mind expected empty road. The same dullness that let your attention drift is what makes you slow to see the one thing that finally matters. Out here, boredom and panic are separated by a single heartbeat. Numbers and mechanisms explain the road. The people explain what it costs. On a bright May morning in 2023, on one of the few curving stretches of Highway 190, a 73-year-old man from Las Vegas was riding his motorcycle through the bends between Panamint Springs and Father Crowley Point. Somewhere in that curve, he lost control. The motorcycle slid across into the other lane, into the path of an oncoming vehicle, and struck it head-on. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Think about the two people in that moment. One made a mistake or hit a patch of gravel or misjudged the curve. We do not fully know. The other was doing everything right. In their own lane, going the correct direction, no error at all. And the difference between them came down to physics and a fraction of a second. The rider died. The driver he struck survived. Same collision, same instant. Two completely different endings. That is one of the hardest truths about this road. You can be sober, alert, careful, exactly where you belong, and still end up in a crash you did nothing to cause because someone else drifted into the space you were driving through. On two lanes with no median, the only thing separating your lane from theirs is a painted line, and everyone's agreement to respect it. When one person cannot, being blameless does not save you from the impact. It only saves you from the guilt. Now go back to a July afternoon in 2021. It was around 110 degrees. A driver was alone on Highway 190. No passenger, no second vehicle involved. For a reason investigators were never able to establish, the car left the road onto the dirt shoulder and the driver was killed. The report noted the driver was not wearing a seatbelt. Beyond that, the cause stayed where so many causes on this road stay: unknown. But it's what happened next that says the most about this place. Another visitor came upon the wreck, and there was no way to call for help, no signal, nothing. So that person got back in their own car and drove to a resort down the road just to reach a telephone. Only then could rangers and the highway patrol be sent. Sit with that. Somewhere out there, a life may have depended on how fast help arrived, and the fastest anyone could do was drive miles to find a working phone. This is the part of the danger that has nothing to do with how well you drive. You can do everything correctly and still be undone by where you are, a place where the ordinary safety net of the modern world simply isn't there. It was around 8 o'clock on a July night in 2023, the light nearly gone, on the stretch of Highway 190 that runs downhill between Emigrant Junction and Stovepipe Wells. A 26-year-old man from Costa Mesa was driving east. His vehicle crossed onto the opposite shoulder, caught an embankment, and rolled several times. He died at the scene. Here is the detail that should stay with you. Investigators did not suspect alcohol or drugs. This was not a story about a reckless drunk. This was, as far as anyone could tell, an ordinary driver on an ordinary night, going downhill on a road that had done nothing threatening for miles. And then his car simply left its lane, crossed to the wrong side. And once a car starts to go on a road like this, at that speed, in that dark, there is very little time and very little margin to bring it back. It is the same movement as the very first crash, and the one near the rock wall, and so many others in the park's files. Different people, different nights, different vehicles, and the same quiet, deadly sequence. When one road produces the same crash again and again, the road is telling you something. This one has been saying it for years. Not every story on this grade ends in a death, and the near misses show you how thin the line is. On a summer evening in 2023, a tractor trailer was coming down from Town Pass when its brakes caught fire. An off-duty park employee happened to be driving home behind it and saw the flames under the truck. With no cell signal, she used a park radio to raise the alarm, and rangers started toward the scene with a fire engine from Furnace Creek 35 miles away. The trucker managed to pull over and put the fire out with an extinguisher. Then he started down the grade again, and the brakes caught fire a second time. By then, his extinguisher was empty. He made it to Emigrant Junction, and the ranger crew arrived just in time to kill the flames before the truck was lost. That driver walked away. But trace how close it ran. A fire, no phone, help more than half an hour out. A second fire, an empty extinguisher, and rescue arriving with almost nothing to spare. Change one variable, no employee behind him, a slower response, a fire that spread faster, and it is another fatal line in the record instead of a story about a truck that barely survived. On this road, the difference between a headline and a near miss is often nothing more than luck and timing. So if you're going to drive this road, and most people who come to Death Valley have to, respect what it actually is, not what it looks like. Sleep before you go. The most dangerous thing you can bring onto this highway is a tired brain, because the road will not wake you up. Don't save the long, empty stretches for the end of a long day. Drive them rested, and if you can, in daylight. Fill your tank and carry water, cold water, more than you think you need before you leave the last services. Out here, a breakdown isn't a delay, it's exposure. Check your tires and brakes before the heat and before the grade. If you're driving anything heavy, gear down for the descent off Town Pass and stay off your brakes. Let the engine hold you back. The trucks that burn here are the ones that learned that too late. Keep your following distance up, and don't trust the empty road ahead. The one time it stops flowing, you'll have less warning than you expect. And know before you go that your phone probably won't work. Help isn't a call away here, it's a long drive away. The safest version of you on this road is the one who never needed rescuing in the first place. But you can do all of that, every bit of it, and still not control the one thing this road keeps proving. Go back to that clear afternoon, the 30th of December, 2019. Xiaomin Deng was driving a Chevrolet Malibu on Highway 190, heading the opposite direction from a Kia that, for reasons no one could ever explain, eased across the center line. Deng did nothing wrong. Deng was in the right lane, on a dry road, under a clear sky, on an ordinary stretch of an ordinary-looking highway. There was simply nowhere to go. Before that afternoon, Deng was not a data point, not a line in a park report, not a number in a 10-year total, not part of anyone's ranking of dangerous roads, just a person driving through Death Valley on a bright winter day, the way tens of thousands of people do every year on a road that looked as safe as any they'd ever driven. That's the thing this highway does. It looks completely ordinary, because it is ordinary, right up until the moment it isn't. The straightness that feels so easy, the emptiness that feels so calm, the long, clear view that makes it seem like nothing could ever surprise you, those aren't the reasons this road is safe. They're the reasons it isn't. And the hardest part is this. From your own seat, on that same wide, quiet, sunlit road, you would not have seen anything wrong either.